So hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Wood Heat Wednesday. This week I'm going to take a little deeper dive into some units of measure when it comes time to deal with fire, more specifically loosely thrown or piled firewood. I feel like this will be very helpful for if you're trying to figure out how much wood you have in the back of your truck that you just went out and cut, or if you're someone that purchases firewood, help make sure you don't get taken for a ride. So if you've ever gone out and tried to purchase firewood, there's generally a lot of different sayings you see when it talks about the measurement of that wood. Sometimes you'll see something like a rick of firewood, or you'll see a fireplace cord of wood. And it really is very important to have a defined definition of these different units because they can greatly vary. The one thing I'm pretty sure is standard across the board, I know for sure here in the state of Minnesota and most states, is a cord of wood. A cord of wood is defined as 128 cubic feet of firewood neatly stacked, generally in a row of 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, 4 feet tall. So you take those numbers, 8 times 4 times 4, 128 cubic feet. Now where this can become an issue if you don't have a definition on something like this, so say you go out and buy a rick of firewood, or you go out and buy a fireplace cord of firewood, and there's a discrepancy between you and the seller or vice versa, and you need to get weights and measurements involved in this to help resolve the issue, they're not going to be able to do that because it's an undefined unit of measure. I have some limited daylight here, so hopefully I can get this all done tonight. The other day I was on the internet and I came across this this article done by the state of Minnesota. It's more by the weights and measurement division and kind of defining firewood measurements here in Minnesota, and it was really just saying, you know, the only legitimate form of measurement is a cord of wood, 128 cubic feet. But I had two bits of information in the article that I thought was very helpful. Obviously, if you stack your firewood very neatly, there's a lot less airspace, and you're talking 128 cubic feet for a cord. However, if you loosely throw that wood in the back of a pickup truck, just cut, it's 160 cubic feet. And if you have it cut and split, loosely thrown in the back of a pickup truck, it's 170 square feet in order to equal a cord of wood. So what I'd like to do tonight is load up the back of my pickup truck with a bunch of wood that I'm already gonna be shuffling around here. We're gonna take a measurement before we throw it in the back of the truck, so we have a real good idea on actually how much wood is going into the truck. And then we'll try using one of these formulas here, the 175 cubic feet measurement, and just see how they compare, I guess. Got the bed all cleaned out. What we're dealing with here is a Chevy 1990 K2500 Silverado. 8-foot bed on this. It doesn't really matter what size bed because we're going to take measurements, the length, the width, and the height, and this will scale up or down whether you got a smaller truck like an S10 or a Ford Ranger, or even something quite a bit larger here. So this wood pile is looking a little rough. First thing we'll do is we'll take a measurement of the length, and we'll take the height, and then we'll just take this very first row. So generally I cut my firewood 22 inches. It's going to roughly be what these are. We're looking right just under 9 feet. And we're looking 65, we'll say. And 66, so right around 5.5 feet. And then, like I mentioned, it's 20 inches, 22 inches deep. So let's load up the truck real quick.
counting sheep to pass the time. Found himself in a quandary, face to face with a lion. Just a boy in a pasture.
So I ended up just pulling the truck a little bit closer because I got to fill in this indent here, and I don't want to take out my back window, so I just want to throw a little bit more care, and I don't want to be carrying it all over the place. I did manage to get old trusty Rusty's tailgate shut here, so this will give us a pretty good idea.
When the fire became impending, oh, we knew to stand his ground.
So we managed to get all that into the back of the pickup truck. I tried to stay as consistent as I could going across. Obviously you're gonna have a little bit of slope by the window, and if I was selling firewood and trucking this across town or something, I would definitely not load it up this full. Or if I did, I would utilize some of these brackets and build like a wood rack here or something to hold that stuff in. But now we'll measure out the bed real quick and we'll do a rough calculation to see how close they are. So 98 inches. By 62 inches. It would be safe to say 39 inches.
When the fire became impending, oh, we knew to stand his ground. He could gaze upon his history, oh, see the victory.
Oh, I just love these fall-like nights. It's just nice, cool weather. Fantastic to work in. Truck's squatting pretty good in here. Pretty nice heavy load of oak for the most part. There's a little bit of basswood in here as well. This stuff's all been sitting for 3+ years. I think the very first video I put up, this was probably cut very shortly after that. And I don't think I took you guys along with that. I had caught wind that there was a construction job going on at a place where they're gonna be building a house. They were gonna take down a couple trees. I knew some people, I talked to them, got the okay to go in and cut those trees, and I just went in some Saturday morning. It was really nice. No one was there. There was no equipment or anything. It was all before they poured the foundation. Nothing to worry about dropping a tree on if I end up making a mistake. And came home with a real nice, huge oak tree and a big, huge chunk of basswood as well. So if you're someone that's in the hunt of looking for additional places to cut, that might be an idea to think about. Especially since you see a lot of construction projects all the time. If you know somebody or just take the time to go talk to someone, there definitely can be some benefits. You might get turned down, but you never know if you don't at least ask. So let's go in, let's punch some numbers here and see how things turned out. So you guys of course saw the results before I did. I have to admit I was a little disappointed and surprised on what a difference the two were. We were talking 8% of a cord, or roughly around 10 cubic feet of firewood. That's a lot of wood. I got thinking a little bit. Obviously this is not a perfect alternative to actually taking the time to stack your wood and then measuring it out, but sometimes life doesn't always work like that, and I think this tool could be very helpful. One of my biggest takeaways is I went back and tried to figure out what I could have done better next time if I had to use this, and I think a lot of it came back to my height measurement. When I took my measurement, I was taking out of the back of the truck. That pile was kind of mounted both from front to back and side to side. I think if I had sides on the truck where things were able to sit a little bit more squarely across, I think I would have had a little bit more of an accurate reading. Also, when I took my reading, I took it off of the highest point on there, and I think next time I would have took it off more of the medium across the board, you know, on the height. I went back, re-crunched the numbers, and just minus, I think it was 3 inches off the height, which is pretty doable, especially if I spread that wood out a little bit. And I came into 72% of a cord, so within a 2 to 3% difference than the actual taking the time to have that wood stack and then take the measurement. So a much more closer. So obviously a couple inches can make a pretty big difference. The downside is when you're just heaping wood like this, you know, sometimes you got a couple extra pieces hanging out at this end and things just aren't as nicely squared up. So This might be a good thing to add to your arsenal. I could see this being really helpful if you wanted to get a rough idea on how much wood you brought home that day cutting. Obviously, instead of dividing it by 175, you would divide it by 160 if it wasn't split. But in this case, since it is split and not stacked, we're doing 175. So just kind of the experiment that I wanted to try out tonight and share my experiences with this. Have you ever gone out and tried this yourself? I'd be really curious what your thoughts are on this. I will put a link to that article in the description below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.